Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Inworld Review. It is the 18th of December of the year 2022, and in 2 weeks' time it will be 2023, if I've got that worked out right. Or maybe 2 weeks' time in a day. But never mind, we are in that holiday season where one year becomes another, if you follow the right calendar, that is. Um, Last week we weren't here on this show because we were at something called the Opensim Community Conference. And this show, of course, is all about OpenSim and especially the hypergrid, the system that links us all together on many hundreds or thousands of grids. I don't know how many there are. Maybe Maria knows. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe Ferd knows. Maybe who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Right. But this week we're going to actually look back at the events that happened during the course of the conference that we found kind of interesting. I've been joined by quite a few people who we're going to talk to, all of whom were at the conference as attendees and participants in at least one case. First of all, I'm going to introduce myself. Yes, can't forget that, can I?
Hello, Mal.
My name is Mal Burns, and that's about it, really. Um,
Is that your name? Mal Burns? I never knew that.
no, I didn't. I didn't actually. Can somebody prompt me? What's my name? It is also, of course, the silly season. We'll be right this time next week. We'll be definitely here with the silly season. But for the moment, it's half a silly season. Yes. So I'm Mr. Nobody. It doesn't matter really. Um, I'm joined by my regular co-host who's giggling away in the background here. That's Thirza Ember. Hello,
Hello,
Thirza.
everybody. Hi.
Who let off the laughing gas over there, eh? Right, on my other side too is James Atlloud, who's sort of my other co-host, but more importantly is the sitter and the knob fiddler and everything else. He makes sure that everything goes according to plan behind the scenes here, whilst endeavouring to talk himself at some various points. So welcome, James.
Ahoy, Captain. Fiddling away.
Yes. Yeah, pick up me fiddle and fiddle. Oh, fine then. Maybe I should call it. Cough, cough. Right. Okay, and we have three other guests who were actually at the conference. Now, he was part of my viewer panel, so I'll come to him first. Humbletim Metaverse is here, and he's one of these rare occurrences where we actually have a non-human on the seats here. I don't know. I don't even know whether his lips slap. I forget. He's none other than Humbletim Metaverse. Welcome, Humbletim.
Hey, Mel. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And next to Humbletim, we have Ernest Moncrieff. Who,
Hello.
yeah, welcome, Ernest.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Has been responsible for some great builds, and his partner in great builds, as it were, Ellen Tiratzo. Welcome, Ellen. Have I got that
Thank you.
right? Tiratzo?
Ohio Gozaimasu from Japan.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I was just going to say, I was just going to point that out. It's early morning for Ellen. In fact, it's probably Monday morning, isn't it, for you?
It is
Right.
5:31 Monday morning in Japan.
And Thurza and I are on late UK time, which is still Sunday. And James is earlier. Hang on, Ernst, you're in the UK too. So you're the same as me and Thurza, so is that right? Yeah. Anyway, we've definitely got a spread of geography here, as well as virtually, if you see what I mean. Anyway, let's get on with it. Let's get on with things. I'm going to start the show off as we always do by handing over to Thurza to bring us the hypergrid happenings for this week. So it's over to you. Well, after the sound effect, it will be over to you, Thurza.
Thank you very much, everybody. Hi. Yes. So hypergrid happenings this week. There's loads of things happening all over OpenSim. As you can imagine, this is just a tiny fraction of the things that you'll be able to see, do, and enjoy during the holiday season. First of all, I just wanted to mention over on OS Grid, There's going to be a Christmas hunt. It isn't open yet. It opens on Christmas Day. It's by Ange Marsh and Nanny Ferguson. As usual, they've done a seasonal event, which will be devilishly hard to get through, but worth it because the prizes are always lovely. So get over there to OS Grid. The name of the sim is Kyon, apparently. So that shall be fun. It's closed at the moment. Don't try going yet, but on the 25th of December, they will open that. Right now, if you're watching this show and you'd like to multitask, rush over right now to Wolf Territories, because Wolf himself is singing. He's singing all kinds of Irish stuff and country stuff. And he doesn't use any backing tracks. He's singing live. It was fantastic. I was listening to him a bit earlier. He's really good, a lot of fun. And he's going to be doing another event in February. So if you miss this one, you can get to that in the new year. Of course, next up is OS Grid. They have the Christmas party, which is on the 23rd of December, just before Christmas. So if you Christmas with your family, you still have time to get to the Christmas party on OS Grid. As usual, it will have a huge arc of time. That's what really the feature of OS Grid parties is, that they cater for all the time zones, which Mal was just talking about, how we're all in different areas of the world. So you can't always get to all the events because they're at a time when perhaps you're sleeping or working. But the OS Grid party will be doing the usual long session with lots of live singers and DJs. So that's on Friday. Here's a fun thing if you like doing dinky things. The Catnip Brewery over on Discovery Grid, they're having an event. They have it every Sunday. Again, it's from 4 to 6 p.m. So if that's the time zone good for you, then that's a fun thing to do. They're having a big winter bash.
I've just got to interrupt there. I wonder if you really can brew catnip as a drink.
I'm feeling that you probably can.
Giving the cat the drink instead of milk.
To be honest, I thought that's what you were drinking earlier, Mal. I'm shocked that you haven't already distilled that. Hopefully, you'll share the recipe next week. Yeah. So next up, trying to be quick here, it's Clan of Scotia. If you enjoy his music, he's a great singer. The band is great. Webby Merlin is a genius at making the sets. It's always huge fun. Anything they do, it's all animated and perfectly timed and coordinated. And the backing area and the backing singers are always incredibly fun to watch. They have an event. It's tomorrow. But the Clan will be singing throughout the AMV Winterfest, which is also coming up. Here's a fun one. If you like rock music and you're around on Sunday the 25th, Christmas Day, Christmas Rock will be happening over there on the German grid. So that's a fun thing to do. I'm going to get the guys to put the links to all these regions in the comments on this video, so you'll be able to just cut and paste or copy and paste the link to get to these events. Next up, our very own Zori Jupiter, who is on OS Grid. She has made a Victorian Christmas sim. She made it, I think, last year, and it's really beautiful. We talked about it, was featured on the show a few weeks ago when we had Unak Dekal was on the show.
Yeah.
And so we had some video of that. Well, Zori is also a singer, as you all know, probably. And so she's doing a special concert, and that's coming up. Let me see, what day is that?
Oh, the 21st?
The 21st, yes, that's right. So not for a few days. So again, you have time to put that in your calendar, and don't miss that. They do request formal attire, so if you have a nice formal outfit. I don't know what the lizards wear when they're trying to look formal. Not sure what the outfit there is, the dress code. Something to do with tails, I'm imagining. Okay, and the last slide that I have for you is the AMV Winterfest, which I mentioned before, talking about Clan, who will be appearing in it. They have doing everything as usual. It's over on Alternate Metaverse Grid. Cataplexia has planned loads of stuff together with Cliff. There is belly dancing, there is a winter market, there is fantasy snow globes, and there are all kinds of contests happening. So it's not just getting down and dancing, but lots of fun activities too. And that is a wrap.
Well, thank you, Thirza, for all that and the wrap. You had it all wrapped up for the season, like a parcel with its wrapping.
Are you angling for a gift, Mal? Is that
Oh,
it? You're hoping for some presents.
Who knows? Who am I to say?
Exactly.
Okay. Talking of presents, here's a picture of a big Christmas tree with lots of presents around it and a strange little animal as well. It wasn't included in the Hypergood happenings, but here it is. Avacon, which is actually the Avatar. It's home to the main studio for the show, though we're not there at the moment. They're having their own Christmas party, and James is going to have to remind me again. I think it's 10 o'clock in the evening on Tuesday. Am I got it right?
Yeah, it's 2 p.m. Pacific time,
Oh,
Second
sorry.
Life time. Yep.
Yeah, trust me to say 10 p.m. Yeah, 2 p.m. Pacific time on the Avacon grid. And if you just go to Avacon,
Oh, and actually, a correction, it will be on the OSCC grid, the conference grid.
Oh,
Yep, because Avacon has got some server issues.
of course,
Yeah.
it's got some issues, hasn't it? We
It
should
does.
know that by
Yep.
now, shouldn't we? Right. Yes, indeed. So that ties in, frankly. So they're going to be having this year's Avacon party, as it were, on the OSCC grid. So I presume if you log into OSCC grid, what is there? Conference.opensimulator.org.8002, I think. When you get there, you'll better find it, I'm sure. So yes, 2 p.m. in the afternoon Pacific time this coming Tuesday. So there's an extra event for you to delight yourself. Right. Now, before we move, strictly speaking, into conference this time, I'm just going to reflect on Thurza's recent blogs. Now, we obviously have no Safari Roundup this week. That would be back in February-ish or so. But you did post a couple of blogs this week, and I'm going to start the most recent one. Actually, is probably a bit technical. There's one here called Bugged Out, and apparently it's some kind of bug that is in Opensim. So if I can get this thing.
What happens is I ran into an old friend, Eva, and she told me this terrible story that had happened to her. She went to a grid with a friend, and the two of them got kicked from the grid and banned. And she couldn't understand why, because she's not the kind of person who does weird stuff or anything. And they weren't clicking on things or trying to copy bot things, nothing at all. She couldn't get what was happening. And it turned out that both she and her friend showed up on this grid as having the same MAC address.
Right.
And I didn't really understand or care what that was. So I did a little research, and there's a paragraph there that explains what it is. And basically, they showed up as if they had the same ID, as if they were coming off the same computer, which supposedly is impossible. So she is a member of Craft Grid, so she went to her grid owner, of course, the lovely Liku Rao, and he put in a mantis, not that kind of mantis, the other kind. And it turns out this is some kind of bug in Opensim. So if you are a grid owner and you're seeing a lot of people that appear to have the same MAC address, it may be a griefer, but it may not. It may be something to do with this bug. And so probably want to look into that. Of course, if they fix the bug, that would also be nice. But
Right. Well, it's always worrying when these things happen. But yeah, it's so
it
confusing.
is, especially someone like her, because she's such a sweetheart. Yeah. She couldn't be nicer. And she was really quite shocked that anybody would ban her from a grid.
Yeah.
So not my experience to be shocked by that, but hers.
Yeah.
People do that to me all the time.
I presume it is just a glitch somewhere rather than
appears to be.
Evidence. Yeah, any evidence.
The person, maybe Humbletim knows something about that. I don't. I have no clue.
Are you a bug chaser? I mean, lizards do sometimes.
He's dressed for it.
Yeah, you go for insects, don't you? Do you chase bugs?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that direction of consumption. But here at the MAC address, it's actually interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen Firestorm pop up a message at the beginning saying we couldn't decode your password file. Like if you go to a new computer and restore your backups,
Yeah.
it's also keying on a MAC address. It uses like hardware IDs, and so these hardware IDs, it's kind of like it's like a genetic fingerprint of your computer, and that's why it is used to kind of tackle some of the griefing cases and cut through the alt layer of indirection. So it makes sense. I didn't realize that OpenSim had any automation in it though to do bannings based on duplicate MAC addresses. So that's interesting.
I have no idea. I seriously do not have any idea. I only wrote what I was told. So if you have more information, you want to put a comment on the blog, that would be brilliant, because it would probably clear up my confusion.
And the reader's confusion for that matter. I hate to think we've alarmed people by reporting on something that shouldn't need reporting, basically.
Right.
Okay, moving on. This is I have one other link here this week before we go back to Thursday's other ones. This Ramesh Ramlal is very often, well, he was at the conference this year, though he didn't. Well, actually, I'm not sure he was, or he sent somebody along anyway.
Yeah, he was traveling. He had a conflict and he couldn't attend.
Right. Okay. But basically, this is news delivered by hypergridbusiness.com, hypergridbusiness.com. Most busy.
Well done.
Most busyness it is, and yeah, well done. Thank you, Thirza. I always wonder with the long links. Right, it's sort of he's created well, where is it? Opensim allows easier in-world content, physical environments, animated PCs and at the conference. Well, he wasn't there, but he sent somebody along who was talking about how the platform will be free and open source, integrated with DreamGrid, which is FirstGrid's, and even support GPT-powered bots. Now, I think this is something I didn't actually see somehow during the conference. I had things streaming all the while, well, except when I fell asleep, of course. But I'm in Europe, folks. Forgive me. But yeah, basically, do you know anything about this one? For example, Humbletim. Again, it's a sort of technical one, which I suspect is more your cup of tea than mine, or even Thurza's. Did you see this or know anything about it?
No, I can't say that I can, but just from that intro paragraph that I saw, it does sound very interesting, and the integration points across the OpenSim stack are pretty amazing because the whole stack is open source. You can actually do NPCs in multiple different ways. There's client-side NPCs, server-side NPCs, and even like third-party NPC services you could bridge over to an OpenSim, instance. And so it's really cool to see that playing field being explored here, which it sounds like this is doing to the extreme.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to this. The more toys we got, the better. Well, I know they're not toys, sorry. Tools for holiday, can't you? Yes, tools. Sorry, tools and toys. Get them confused sometimes. Right. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to read more about this, you can go to hypergridbusiness.com, or indeed they've got various links here on the page which you better follow to get a bit more information. You don't need to click on that one. That's the conference that's already happened, but whatever. Okay, moving back to just a couple more from Thurza. Magic Auer, A-U-E-R. I guess that's the right pronunciation, is this? Thurza. Silence. Have you muted?
Sorry, my fault. I have muted myself. No, it's Hour. It's Alpha Hour from very well known in Second Life, an artist and a curator of art. And many years ago, she came over to OpenSim, and she is on Ngrid, which is New Genres Grid, which is run by Max Moswitzer, who's a university guy from Switzerland. And this is her sim, Shapeshifter, which is got to be in my top 5 sims of all time. It's a really beautiful sim, worth visiting and revisiting. And so I know I actually had the privilege of meeting Alpha in real life in Turkey, and she's just a super person. And this is just a little bit of a voyage through her beautiful sim. If you've never seen it, it's a must. And that's
Yeah,
it, really.
looks, yeah, it was great. Okay, I was sort of, oh, well, I didn't know that was
I think
happening.
that's it, probably.
Oh, don't you love the back buttons? Right, okay. Yeah, as you see, it looks wonderful. I was just trying to get to all the pictures here before we move on. Very, it reminds me of
Yes, it's a fun sim, but there's also, I think there's passion there, there's humor, and I mean, she's just a genius in the way she lays things out. So it's very beautiful. There's lots of things to discover. Plus, yes, you've got a picture, the picture there of the shop as well. If you ever go there, she's got some wonderful avatars that she made that are, you know, unique to OpenSim. So some content there that you don't see everywhere.
there we are. That's
Yeah.
the shop, I guess, isn't it?
Lots of artistic avatars. And, you know, she's just a wonderful person.
I keep seeing pictures like that. I think, oh, I've been there. But then again, boxes in shops is a bit confusing.
Yeah, but you know,
I-
there's a wide choice. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
wanted to try and convey that, you know, sometimes there's just one outfit. But she was in Second Life for such a long time, and then she was in OpenSim for such a long time. So she's made a lot of outfits, and they're all available right there.
We were talking, weren't we, about possibly doing a sort of shopping type special where we focus on the actual creators, the originality, you know, because you can go to so many shops and they're great, but you see similar or same things all over the place. Then you come across one that's
True.
just very uniquely different, you know.
I just think we just have to thank the Lord that nowadays you can actually find content in OpenSim because, I mean, I'm sure Ellen and Ernest would agree. Over the years, the situation has improved. Not all content is perhaps quite as legitimate as other bits, but at least you've got a great choice of things that you could get hold of. So,
Absolutely right.
Okay. Oh, there's even a video there. The
oh
Corvette.
yeah, so that I'm glad you stopped on that one, but that's it's very long, so we probably don't want to watch the whole thing. But this is a video by Fuchsia back in the day when we did a safari on that shapeshifter sim, and I'd just been to visit Alpha in Istanbul, so we had the whirling dervishes in World. We had a little costume, and I made an animation to go with it. I do think, though, in the end, it turned out that they're twirling the wrong way, and it's probably very unlucky or something. But still, we had a great time. And the music, if you do get to watch this video and listen to the sound, you'll hear Tip Corbett, who is just a fantastic pianist, and so he does improvisations.
Yeah, lovely, yeah. Rippling piano.
Yeah, it was a magical night.
Ballet kind of thing. I miss Fuchsia.
Yes, yeah, me too. Very much.
I met her, I think, a couple of times in the organic sphere, as they call it. But she does a lot of art. She's an artist there too. So
Yes, fantastic.
she paints these sort of René Magritte type sort of surrealist things on actual physical walls, and some of her bigger projects she used to actually prototype in OpenSim. So she'd get regions and she'd paint and build, you know, Inworld, the finished product, but that she was then going to go and paint in the real world afterwards. So totally integrated there. Though sadly she's not around Inworld very much now, either in OpenSim or elsewhere, as far as I know. On Facebook,
Yeah, she's a busy lady. She's teaching courses, and she does a lot of frescoes as well in real life. So on buildings. If you have not seen her page on Facebook, it's worth a look. Her real name is Nina Camplin, and you can find her in Facebook and see all her wonderful art that she puts up for people to see and share and look at, and even go take her courses online as well. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was actually great because I'm glad you allowed to. I presume we can mention them real name. Yeah, Painting
Yeah.
Medina was a whole series that started during the COVID thing. So, I mean, I imagine she got a lot of traction there, you know, where people locked away in their homes and they didn't all want to go into virtual worlds. They wanted to do other things like learn to paint, especially learn to paint with Nina. So,
Oh, yes. So she's a lot of fun.
yeah. Right, well, we better pause that. As I said, it's just 9 minutes long, so I haven't quite got time to show you the whole thing there and get our chat in at the same time. So, getting back to the page, yeah, I think that was it. Plenty of pictures there. So, you'll find this blog post, of course, at Thirza's blog, which is hgsafari.blogspot.com. hgsafari.blogspot.com. And finally, from the same site, wonder of wonders, Cadvent. You play on words here. You've got the Advent calendar and you've got the Adventure, and well, Canadians comes into it too. So tell us about this one.
Oh, very quickly, yes. If you're interested in hunts, if you're interested in snow, and if you like French Canada, then this is the place to go because this is the Quebec grid, which is called Créanaval, and it's run by our good friends Kelso Uxley and Debbie Shee. Stavlino, and they have set up a huge winter wonderland over there. Do not touch the nose of that reindeer if you want to be able to respect yourself in the morning. Strange things happen to you. Yeah, really don't. It's a fantastic build. Kelso's got really good at scripting, so there's loads of winter sports activities that you can go on. A lot of Sims have that, I know, but he really makes it extraordinary. There's these new horses now, Animesh horses, that are so fantastic, realistic, and it's a beautiful place to visit. And they even have a travel centre at the end when you get to the Christmas market, which gives you the landmarks to all the other winter-themed places. So you can jump around if you're in a wintry kind of a mood and you want to see different places in Opensim that have ice and snow. If you don't have enough in your own back garden, there's loads of places to visit.
It's funny.
That's really it.
Most years we don't have enough snow in our own back garden. It's quite
Yeah.
nice to see it in the world, but this year I think it's, well, for those of us in Europe, I think it's turned upside down, hasn't it, a bit? We're getting the snow for once in the real world. Do we still want it in world as well? There's a nice little overview picture. It's getting the whole.
Yes, they really are a great team and they work together. And Kelso does most of the scripting. WG does most of the layouts. Generally speaking, the physical landmarks remain the same all year round, but they just modify it according to the season. So it's a lovely grid and well worth a visit if you haven't been. But again, stay away from that reindeer.
It's always nice. It always used to be the case in Second Life, but you can get, there's plenty of them in OpenSim too. You can go to quite a few winter places and they'll give you a free pair of skis, you know, and you wear the skis and go down slopes and, you know, just like well, almost like the real world, put it that way. But also, as in that picture there, the skating rinks, you know, they'll give you the skates and you can, you just wear them and start skating around. Sometimes you even get ones that work a bit like vehicles. In other words, they give you extra smooth control or something like that. But that's always fun. I mean, it's particularly with the winter landscapes, or you know, when you're going boating and things like that. The scripts, right? Okay, well that's it for your pages there. So let's put that one away for now and come back to the main thing. Right now. Coming back to our guests here, of course, because we're getting a nice overview of what was happening. I'm going to start this thing off because I've sort of organised them into a bit of a list here. Where is it? This picture is actually from last year, but Thirza said, hey, keep it up. It's a nice one. This is me, and this is Leah Lobo, who's one of the main organisers, not for Avacon, but the organising group. and does an awful lot of intros to moderating panels and things like that. She's the one that says now Mal's going to have a panel, and does all the recites all the biographies and stuff like that if needed. Anyway. We produced a special film. You'll find it up on this channel. It was actually shown during the safari that actually happened at the conference, and what we did is we went to all the places, the 4 places that were going to be on the special safari. We interviewed those who were running it, and we took some shots of their regions, and then we finished it all off with a round table of well, there was no table involved actually, but otherwise a round table of safari regulars. So people at home, as it were, watching the TV broadcast did actually have something to look at while we were doing it. And I guess Thirza will join me here telling us what we've got. This is the poster. It's the Hypergrid Safari 4-region tour, and that's the date when it was held, of course. And these are just some shots from the film. You'll find the film on the channel here if you want to watch it, so that's fine. Yeah, Thirza, this is you.
Yeah, that's Karima Hoisan. The pictures are by Dale Innes. He is deeply into AI art, and what he did was he had just loads of pictures which he wanted to share. So Karima set up a region in Kitely, and she built galleries themed so that each one would have the look necessary to sort of show off the art to its best effect. And it's a really beautiful sim, and she set up a guided walking tour. So you go around, you're scripted when you get there, and you just walk through the whole thing. Well, not the whole thing, but a part of the build, just to get an idea of the beautiful art that they have there.
And your next stop?
Here's Nick's Breen, and this is his build, which was made for the Mexican Southern American festival, the Day of the Dead. And so he called it the Dreams of the Dead. So it's got a sort of carnival style theme to it. It's an interesting build, and again, that was another sort of 20 minutes or so to explore that.
It was a very difficult region. Behind the 2 of them there, you can see all this sort of colourful stuff. It's rather low res there, but coming in and going down, and unfortunately it is a case of going down into that maze.
It's hard to cam, but if you fly around, it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and quite nightmarish in a few places. You keep forgetting there's a very sinister side to Carnival as well as.
But he made the whole build in 5 hours. It was a very quickly. He had the idea and he just built it. And on Pangea Grid they gave him a sim, and so he's a really quick builder.
Did you actually just quickly going back as well? All of these. Did you get a sense of how the people on the safari were reacting to this?
I think she told me about 20 people got there altogether, right. Something like that.
Of course, this AI art by Dale is a big thing at the moment.
Yes,
putting it into a gallery there. But yeah, I was just wondering with all of them too, really, sort of whether. Well,
we left it very open, so people could, go to all of them, hopefully, or
in their own order. Yeah.
One never knows how many people are going to come. It can't be a real safari where we all meet together in one place and then we all leave together, because if we have, as we have in past years, multiple dozens of people, it's too many for one grid, so people were able to move around in a more random way. This is Tosha Tyran. This is her sim, which is the Ivory City. We are sitting actually on top of the highest point there and talking about the legacy of Lumiere Noir, who built the Ivory Tower of Knowledge back in Second Life. And of course, they were partners. And when they moved to Opensim, he again made an ivory tower, and she's continued that legacy today. And so you can go there and learn about Prims, or just sort of reflect on the history of Opensim and Second Life. It's a lovely place.
And what have we here?
And I don't know who these people are. I don't know.
They're
Just troublemakers to me.
it's
Look like two troublemakers to me.
all the bits psychedelic, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. No, sorry, just kidding. So here we have Ellen and Ernest, who are our guests here on the show today. And this is their sim, which is part of the Art Factory complex of sims. And this is their build, which is all about Pink Floyd. And maybe they'd like to tell us a bit about it.
Yeah. Do you want to go, Alan?
You can go.
Okay. So yeah, so it's basically built inside a recreation of Battersea Power Station in London, which featured on the album cover of Animals, the Pink Floyd album cover, and we, having built it and filled it full of the art of Pink Floyd, and Alan had the great idea. What do you call them? The things that we made in there?
Tableaus.
Tableau.
Tableaus.
Oh, tableau. Right.
That was the word that we were searching for and couldn't find last time. So tableaus of the album covers. So yeah, it's worth go on and have a look. Some of them you can interact with, you can sit on and interact with, which is cool.
Yeah, it was very popular. A lot of people came back and said, "Oh my gosh, I saw Pink Floyd. You brought it to life." So, congratulations on that. It was a really good show, and thank you so much for participating, because I know it was extra work for you guys, and it's just lovely that we were able to share that with the OSCC public, who are, very often we get people who come on these tours who never really jump from grid to grid. They come in world and they just do their thing on their sim, or perhaps just come in for a few meetings. So this is a great opportunity for people to learn how to grid jump, but also realize that there's all this stuff out there that they don't know about, and so hopefully opens some eyes and some minds to the possibilities that Opensim gives us all.
I think this one would have resonated.
It was a lot of fun.
Was it? Did you have fun? I'm glad. Did
Yeah,
you meet
it was a lot of
people?
fun doing it. Yes, so many people and different ideas from people, and a lot of, like you said, a lot of people from different grids that we wouldn't have met otherwise. So thank you so much for including us. We had,
Oh, thank you.
I imagine it would have resonated, with no offense to the other stops, as it were. But I mean, people know the Pink Floyd, for one thing, very well, I think, and but also it's that real world connection. Not only the Pink Floyd, the real world band. There's the amazing covers which Storms Augustin, by and large, was behind over their career. But also in the iconic Battersea Power Station, which is now home to Apple in the UK and loads of other things. And I did notice that when I filmed for our film, somebody was missing, but the drummer Nick Mason actually had arrived by the time of the conference itself. So that was a plus.
Thank you for picking that one up. I've missed that completely.
Yeah.
we just had to go find him and bring him in.
How can you possibly miss a band member? It wouldn't be the same without them, would it? Okay. Well, move on, because I was about to go off on the tangent again. Now, finally, in fact, we recorded this a few weeks before. In fact, I think you were all here for this. We had this little round table, as I call it, with no table inside. There's a campfire around the.
Yeah, that's the remains of the table burning there, I think.
Yeah, remains. Very good. Yeah, true art, burning tables. Who's that artist who's burning all his works for lots of money? I forget. Anyway, we recorded this too. It was about 50 minutes of us all talking about what we found great about Safari and everything else like that. So I know Humbletim was in there for a while, and you weren't there, Ellen, were you? I doubt. So were you there, Ernest? I think you were there.
Yeah, Ernest was there.
I was there, yeah.
Yeah. Ellen, of course, being a different time zone. Unfortunate, but there we go. Yeah, so that was a great little kind of chat there. Now, we've all got a few different things to talk about here, and in fact, I'm going to change the order a little bit now, because I'm going to move to Ellen, because I gather your pick as your sort of favourite theme for the event was this yes, Islands of Light. It's Anne Frank. Have I got this right here? Yeah, that's the right poster, isn't it? Yeah,
I missed this one. I'm curious to know what you liked about it and how it worked, Ellen.
Just want to say I felt really just energized and inspired by all of the different sessions I attended, and especially visiting the little booths that were set up and seeing how people are using Opensim for real world, events and processes and teaching. And one other thing I liked too was the soft skills training. But my favorite thing was this big Holocaust collaboration that was done by a group of teachers. It just really moved me. I had taught university courses in Second Life, and getting past learning the program was always just such a big hurdle for the students. But because eighth grade students are used to these gaming platforms, it really resonated with the students. And so it was quite easy for them to get used to the functions in World. And the teachers did this collaboration where there was literature and history and all the different core subjects taught through this in-world process in Opensim. And
So how
so
do they do that? How do they use virtual worlds to teach it? Do the students have avatars? Do they act, role play, or what do they do?
well, they have avatars. They don't really role play, but one thing I found really great about it is they had lots of different types of clothing and skin types for the avatars so that everyone felt included. They had hijabs and dark skin or light skin, different clothing that would represent the students, which I thought was very inclusive. And then they had a classroom, and there were things they could click on in the classroom. They had outside readings they had to do, and they all had to also read a book about the Holocaust and then Anne Frank's diary. And they went through a region that had Anne Frank's attic, and they had to sort of crowd all of these avatars into this small attic. And I just think that must have been the most amazing experience for these students to sort of really feel what that would be like. So I found it, I don't know, just really motivating and really exciting to see that people are finding ways to use this amazing platform to reach, education, I guess, if you
Absolutely.
will.
There's a
Yeah.
funny thing, isn't there, about spaces in Opensim, Second Life for that matter. Our avatars and the spaces are not always the scale you expect. And I know when you're walking around, if you're in a small room where, for example, the ceiling's only a little bit above your head, it's much more claustrophobic than it actually is in real life. So it's like, to convey the sense of being trapped in a very small space, it's probably the perfect, virtual reality is probably the perfect place to do it, because it exaggerates that claustrophobia, for want of a better word. Yeah.
And
I
you
did
you
think
have you have experience as a teacher too, in virtual worlds. So how did you feel like things have changed over the years since you started your experience in teaching university courses in Second Life, to what these people are doing here in OpenSim now? Is there a difference?
absolutely. In
Oh,
Second
really?
Life, we just had a university region that was connected to all the university regions in Louisiana. And we had a big sort of lecture hall. And so the students sat in there often backwards with no hair on or like one shoe and tried to participate. And it was just sort of simulating what we would do in a real classroom. But this was much more immersive. And also, I just think that tapping into the natural interest of the students with this gaming platform is brilliant because they already know the commands and what to do and how to move and
Right.
how to type in world or talk in world. And so the teachers let them have the first day in the simulator just to play. And they could jump and run and change clothes and just, have a lot of fun with it. And then they got down to the serious business of learning. And so I think they set up little learning modules in a classroom, and then went out into the attic. And it's such a different immersive way of thinking about education. It wasn't
Yeah.
part of what we did in Second Life. And also, Second Life, it was very difficult in Second Life because of all the sexualized content.
Right.
And also building is so expensive in Second Life. And I don't know, I just think Opensim is a much better place for education, because
The only
you
problem
can,
that people complain about all the time is that they can't find the content. That's the only thing. I mean, as far as everything being less expensive, sure, but that is
I
the
think
down. Seems to be the.
I think they built this region for just specifically for this content. But think
I
about, you
got
could do anything historical. You could do the Confederate War, like you could do World War II and have the sound effects and the lights and
It's
like
true.
blasts from, I don't know, missiles or whatever going on, and the
Yeah.
students would really feel something that they wouldn't experience just in a classroom and from a textbook.
So we really need we just haven't untapped all the potential then in OpenSim, you would say, for a sort of an all-inclusive experience.
And I think too that maybe the Facebook metaverse or whatever has gotten people more interested in virtual worlds again. And maybe this is just such a hot time, to get involved in this for education
Yeah,
without the sexualized content of Second Life.
absolutely.
Okay, well, okay. I was for those of you who wondered what was happening on the screen behind there. We had a little 5-minute cartoon, a bit, which is for kids, telling them the story
Yeah,
about
I
Frank.
wondered
So
what that was. Yeah.
I was sort of flicking through it just to give you a visual while we were talking. It was basically just a resumed story of her. But we're not going to show the film because it's 5 minutes long, and we prefer talking, don't we? So I was asked my favourites as well, and I couldn't really decide, so I simply just I just picked one that was a bit different, and in fact, coincidentally, of course, I was sort of moderating them a bit. This is actually Nora Malone, who well, she's been around on the Hypergrid and Opensim for a long while, and together with she has an author friend, Siobhan, and Dolly. Dolomita. Oh God, I've forgotten the name. But anyway, they did it.
Dorina.
Marina, that's it. Right. I'm so sorry, girls.
How could you forget that?
I can't. I can. I'm just. Well, come on. Forget my own name half the time. Like as you pointed out at the beginning of the show. Come to think of it, you didn't. You just. Never mind. Anyway, they did this sort of. They actually res this stuff on there. They're and me at the podium, sort of helping them out, basically. This is near the end where they finished resing their things and they decided to dance. And so one of them suddenly adopted a Scottish accent for the dance. And sort of, so I retorted.
Yes, that was
I said,
unexpected.
yeah. Okay, you bunny wee lasses, you. So I retorted, yes. Well, anyway, yeah. This is a little bit earlier on. The Storyteller's Castle. This is Siobhan again. She was on first and came on back at the end. Well, the others were literally driving around behind the scenes, resing or resolving, as we say, the kit there. But it made it was about a real world connection, and it made it a bit fun. And this was actually the thing that happened just before we sent everybody off on the safari. So I think they probably lightened up a bit thanks to this presentation before they lightened
I
up.
was curious to know what Humbletim thought about that, because
Yeah.
this is a different kind of viewer. Humbletim, what did you make of that? Were you aware of this? What they're doing, these girls? Did you see this bit of the conference?
No, I hadn't been aware of it. And I'm actually, I don't think I actually caught this one looking at the screen. Can
Yeah,
you fill me
because
in on
what they
some of the
do.
details?
Well, it's simply Mal will tell you what do they do, Mal? What do they're making books, aren't they?
Well, books, games, also it's very it's very difficult, to be honest. I mean, we actually did a program with Nara, which probably said it better than anything. They basically with the WebXR, as it's called, you can. We're not talking about games made in Flash or anything anymore. We're talking about actual web pages where there's a simulation of something that you can walk through, just like you walk through a bit of a region in a virtual world. But there's also web pages that you can make, which are particular games, which are like 2.5D sort of thing, like the one that's shown there. And between them, they're working on storytelling, they're working on novels, visual novels, and just gamey sort of things. I mean,
Because they're actually all of them are authors. They all
yeah,
write books. That's how they got to know each other. They were in some kind of writing group. And Nara's Nook, which is
yeah,
their grid, is a book writing consortium, if you like. That's what they
yeah,
do. So their idea was to try and find digital ways to tell stories and allow the reader to, in a way, choose where the story goes. Is that not right, Mal? When you go in there,
yeah,
you have choices sometimes,
yeah. I mean,
and you can take the story in a different direction.
there used to be a lot of books that you could read in a different order to get a feeling of a different trail.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons type things, and you'd read something, and then it would say go to chapter 8 or go to chapter 19, and you read that, and then there'd be another thing, go back to whatever, and by jumbling up the order, you could get a different perception of what was happening. Although at the end of the day, of course, you all read the same novel, just in a different order.
I think they
But
also use the virtual world as a place to help with their writing. So they will work out
oh yeah,
scenarios, and then they can experiment with those scenarios and say, "Oh, this is how I will write this passage." So it has a lot of uses.
yeah.
Yeah. In
Nora,
fact.
Nora's Nuke in particular was this sort of collective of, she deliberately enticed writers in there, which is, I think Siobhan was one of the first, and, they hit it off a lot. But,
And she actually is one of
it,
the first people who pioneered the use of NPCs in
yeah,
storytelling
oh,
in
yes.
OpenSim.
I remember I had her on shows long ago, just demonstrating the NPC thing, and we used to have NPCs on the stage, just to make it look fuller. When of course they weren't real avatars, but yeah, NPCs, and also they're now using a little bit of animation stuff. And Nara did actually ask me in advance to make a point at the end of asking her what the difference between animation and NPCs was and which were better. It was a sort of planned question because she wanted to talk about that. Yeah, but I saw the thing that most impressed me is something that I kind of am interested in with WebXR and interoperability and things like that, and that is you can actually create a self-contained world, even the equivalent of just a region or I don't know, a valley with cottages in it or something, and with eventually there's probably a photographic panorama around it that marks the end of the build, but that could be on the web. And when you enter it, you often just use your arrow keys to move forward, back, and much like you can do in OpenSim. So, if you can imagine a giant screen where you put that web page on a prim, right, rather like the giant screen that's behind us in the studio here, where the bottom joins the floor, of course. In other words, the floor of the sim in OpenSim, at the bottom of the screen touches it, and as you walk forward in OpenSim and actually ultimately touch the prim, it activates the web world, so you can walk in to a world on the web from within OpenSim, and of course, for that
Oh,
matter, you can come out of it too. I think it's harder to come out than it is to get in. Actually, you're simply activating the the world that's on the web page, and it's a simple matter of walking into it. And eventually, a lot of these XR worlds are connecting together because they don't have to worry about compatibility between platforms because they're all built using web technologies. So
It was, yeah, that's fascinating. Ernest, this was your first conference, wasn't it? It's the first time.
I had sort of dipped in just for I think one session at an earlier year, but this is the first one I really spent some focus on. Really,
What did you think?
I think it was brilliant. It really was. I mean, it was a really cold, snowy day, and so I was watching that, but also I was watching it live, but also sort of walking around the house and listening to it on the live YouTube channel, which is brilliant.
Yes.
It meant, even though I couldn't necessarily focus for all sessions, I had it on in the background all the time, which was great.
Yeah.
Sort of dipping in and out. Super.
Yeah. What about you, Tim? Are you a regular at the conference?
I've kind of been observing it from afar, but this is my first year sitting on a panel and getting more involved. But it's interesting you mentioned the putting it on in the background. I think it was 2 years ago. I was visiting my folks, and it's kind of explaining some of this stuff is challenging sometimes in general, but to your parents, right? But I was able to pull it up on the TV, and I kind of had it up on the background. And when I would recognize people or something, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's one of the people that I have contact with, and they thought it was really cool, and it was a really great way to be able to fold them into that.
That rocks. That's super. Yeah, I'm the same as you. Oh, look who's there. That's right. Yeah, and so now Mal's put up the image from the AI art session that I think Maria moderated this. What did you think of this?
This is the one Maria moderated, but somebody chose it, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was. I guess there was with my interest. I was really interested in the art sessions, and there was a theme that sort of ran through the conference. Really, there was the Blue Man Standing at the High Castle, which was a presentation by Art Blue. There was Art is art, but which was Kisma Juliet, who is currently running an exhibition as part of the Ukraine art, and I believe I'm sort of going on after her. So we've been sort of talking together and talking about that side. And there was also, as you say there up on the screen, there was Maria's session on the AR art panel. I know you also interviewed Karima as well, and Dale with their AI.
Yeah, that was just pure coincidence. I had no idea that there was going to be so much AI art in the conference, but I think it made a good combination, didn't it? Really,
I think by accidental design, they ended the conference itself not overtly, but did actually have a theme of art. And I guess this is fashionable stuff at the moment too, of course. I guess it all, it, as you say, it's probably a coincidence that, that this kind of art and, did sort of take over a bit. But
I'm curious to know if Ernest, would you now you've seen it done, would you present it?
I was fascinated by it. I mean, for those who have not come across it, there is a number out there. There's Mid-Journey, Night Cafe, Stable Diffusion, Dolly, Crown AI. There's a whole plethora of these AI art programs that are out there on the internet, and basically you can just put a random sentence of words in, a monkey riding a unicycle on the moon, and it will produce a piece of art from the words that you've entered, and it's fascinating. But then there is that whole sort of debate is, but is it art? We've had that debate about is it art for centuries. I mean, this artists have always innovated. They've always used the latest technology, right from the camera obscura and onwards, really. Well, probably before that as well.
Well, weren't the Impressionists criticized because they weren't doing real art? Back in the day when the Impressionist movement started, they all thought, "Oh no, this is rubbish. This is not proper painting."
Exactly.
So
What
yeah,
about the surrealists? You're doing my head in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Art Blue was managed to get a huge amount of references into his presentation.
yes.
But everything from Joseph Beuys to Duchamp and all the way
I
through
think
to
you mentioned Captain Picard at one point.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Captain Picard as well. But yeah, I think there's a real sort of thing out at the moment about but is it real art? And what is real art?
Yeah.
And I found it a very fascinating subject, and there's one that since then I've really sort of been exploring a little bit more and sort of deliberating. Well, what's my opinion? Is it really art? It'll change art as photography changed art, as the camera obscure changed art, but it's a new technology that's being used by artists to create. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
I find it fascinating that people bring this stuff into virtual worlds as well, and how it's sort of all these different visualizations, virtual visualizations, sort of layers of them at this point, that we're looking at virtual art in a virtual world. It's fascinating.
Yes, it's layer upon layer, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
I also see them sort of. I can't say I'm a big fan of it because, as and I've talked a bit before. I mean, it's basically sampling. So I mean, there's no original piece of art coming out here. What's happening is an algorithm is searching through references and copies of art from or eon. It's about the internet, billions of reference items, and then it's putting together something which in itself is new, but it's come from all that reference, but it's not actually a dissimilar to the way musicians started using sampling.
Yes.
Sampling is so commonplace now, and there are a few exceptional instances where it's like, what, Pink Floyd did it first, didn't they, with what's his name, the physicist, but it's now an appreciated part, of the recording, the performance, or whatever. So maybe in the visual arts, this is very much the same sort of thing.
I think it's very similar. I think the difference, and this is where I think is where the dilemma. I mean, as you say, artists have always sampled. When you think of Picasso, when he did the pictures of primitive masks, he was borrowing from another culture. So artists have always stood on the shoulders of giants, and in the way in folk singers have always sort of stood on the shoulders of the blues artists, which stood on the shoulders of the gospel singers. We've always evolved in both visual arts and in music. I think the difference here is the fact that what did the artist bring to the table? How did they, if they put 3 random words into a browser and press go, is that the sum total of their influence on that piece of art?
That's right.
Interesting. But then again, Marcel Duchamp took a urinal, laid it on its side, and called it fountain. Found art is also, I produce various art installations when we as part of the art factory gather things from around the hypergrid to put them together in different ways. It's found art in a way. Does that make it any less legitimate? It's a fascinating.
It's a graphic. I mean, as basically somebody who's probably started as a graphic designer, it's very much all about putting component parts together. I don't consider my own artist. I can't draw a horse, so therefore, but I can put a page together where I've got the typesetting and the illustrations and the photographs, and I can create effects by having things overlapping and stuff like that, even at the basic thing. And it's like the way people decorate their houses. They they can't build or design their own house, so they collect things that allow them to personalize it, which you got to say, aesthetically, especially if they're not copying anybody, I I think anything that is pleasurable as an aesthetic is art. The other thing that comes, or it can be really disturbing and not pleasant, it's aesthetically, but sort of obviously there's a difference between fine art and commercial art. Although over the years you find fine art used commercially now and vice versa, but the debate you're alluding to is actually, and I know this, comic strip artists, for example, some of them are saying, "Oh, look what I can do with this AI art." Others are running scared because they think, well, finding work is hard these days anyway. Don't tell me there's going to be, somebody instead of painting a panel can now instruct a computer program to come up with a panel and then can do the subsequent panel by telling it to do it in the same style with a difference of composition. And reciting to a computer saying, do me a painting of so-and-so in the style of whatever, that's easy, and it goes and does it, And, the artist is busy sort of sketching and painting, be it comics or anything else, they start feeling threatened, and, I don't know, typesetters, were forgotten at the start of the stop publishing. And, it makes you wonder how,
I guess the other aspect to it is the provenance of it, or the ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you, as a graphic designer, take a photograph from Shutterstock or one of the, that work is paid for, somebody has that ownership of it, and you pay royalty to use that. There's a big debate at the moment going on about where these AI art engines are getting their source materials from.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I believe that there's things like, sort of crawling deviant art and various, art repositories for that, and whether that's, the legitimacy of that is
Absolutely.
I think there'll be.
That's always the way, though, isn't it? Every freedom has to be relative. So, this is a new world, a new horizon, but you end up, there's always the person who's going to abuse this, possibility.
We had two other slides from this channel. Here we had the ethics channel.
Oh, right, yes.
Where TikTok settles a lawsuit with a voice actress over training an AI on her voice without permission.
Yeah.
And US copyright rules, AI art can't be copyrighted. They don't consider an AI to be an artist. And Shutterstock will begin paying artists for using their work to train AIs. And some developers have filed suits against GitHub, Microsoft, and OpenAI. So there's ethical challenges, and there was another slide too. Questions: is AI really art? Will AIs get better? Can generate entire 3D scenes, animated bots, interactive environments? That is very interesting because it's already being done now. There is possible future where you will log in to something like Opensim, and the region you are going to, the world you're entering, will not exist until you enter it. And AI will then create it for you, depending on what you want. Oof.
That's like, TV dinners. It's true. They were invented. They're very complicated. Rules and parameters and ideas were put into TV, but it's still a TV dinner, isn't it? Most people like to cook for themselves in the end of it. I mean, sometimes you want a TV dinner, and sometimes you want to go in the kitchen and spend a couple of hours making a gourmet meal. And I think virtual worlds is exactly the same. I wonder what Humbletim thinks. He's very quiet.
Yeah.
You an artist at all, Humbletim?
I don't classify myself as one, but I dabble. I like to do stuff in Blender and build stuff.
I think if you dabble, you're an artist. I think you.
All right. So the AI art is I think we're actually witnessing what might be like a quantum leap kind of transition past this kind of threshold where we're going from this may seem a little, I guess, maybe too pragmatic, maybe, but if you think about it in utilitarian value, like I buy a new house and I have an empty wall and I'd like to put something on there that, brings joy to me. And so I might seek out, a decoration or, design or art. And before this AI art emergence, my options were pretty well knowable up front, and you could approach it systematically. And now it's like this Cambrian explosion of possibilities available to everyone, everywhere. And I think there's too many unknown unknowns still probably out there, but that's kind of exciting as much as it is maybe threatening to the current lenses we're viewing this kind of ecosystem from. But I think we're in store for some surprises, which I hope are going to be pleasant as this plays out.
I think
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that that's very much about decorative art, isn't it? And where you've got artists that are trying to convey an idea or a thought or an emotion, it's not necessarily decorative. I think, as Mal put it, all art isn't chocolate box art. It isn't all pretty. But it's there to challenge and to make you think. It's a way of communicating. And all that AI art is doing, I think, really, is conveying what an AI thinks you want to see, or thinks a message that it is trying to get to you. Is it, or is it the 3 words that you put in on the when you press the button? Is it that you're trying to convey? Yeah.
It's got to be the latter, or at least prompted by the latter. I mean, the AI.
Well, otherwise, all charcoal drawings would just be a bit of burnt wood, wouldn't they? You have the tool is.
Yeah, you got to tell it what you want, how it interprets that, and what resources it pulls up.
Yeah.
No, I think entirely. No, it's like you say, it's fascinating stuff, and at I'm sort of waiting for this to calm down, because all these services, from have all come online in the last few months. The AI stuff, for the consumer, and it's like the new thing. Everybody wants to be doing it, and is enjoying doing it. But something else is going to come along that's, it's not going to go away, but it's going to, something will replace the current enthusiasm, for this. At the moment,
that's the fun of life, isn't it? There's always something new coming along.
Exactly. So when it's subsided and become part of the fabric, I think then is when it will be then I reserve judgment to then. I think, because I want to see it in the context of the greater world of art and everything.
I just was looking at the comments over on YouTube, and Marcus, our lovely Marcus, he says, I blame Gutenberg for all the controversy. If only we had left the written word in the hands of a few educated people, we would be so much better off.
Yeah, well, I believe I think we should blame the cavemen for getting a bit of chisel so they could do things on the plastered walls and talk and hand their stories down. If they hadn't learned to talk, we wouldn't have to worry about the thing we then had to go and write and print.
Yes, but then there would be no Inworld review. That's the trouble.
Yeah, I blame my Neanderthal ancestors, and they had the big idea to take an idea from one head and put it in another head. What's that all about?
I don't know.
Okay, let's move on. This would be a great debate, actually, but we did have a few other things lined up here. Right. Oh, this was really your choice again, Thirza, wasn't it?
I'm curious to know what you other guys made of this, Tim and Ernest and James as well. What do you think of bringing big props? This is, of course, a lovely Graham Mills, who's fascinated by the history of the city of Liverpool, and he's doing a huge project on the earliest part of the port of Liverpool, which obviously is a city that has seen lots of changes over the centuries. And he uses his region over on Kitely to build principally things to do with the ships and the trains from the earliest days of the Industrial Revolution, really, and up till because a lot of these constructions obviously got moved and changed and put up and torn down over the years as the city changed, because obviously the technology of moving goods and people in a port like the port of Liverpool, that means it's like any kind of technology, it's constantly changing. So, and you kind of lose the history when technology demands that you remove buildings and infrastructure. So, but what he did is he brought his props with him and rezzed them right there in the middle of the keynote area. So what did you guys think when you saw that?
Thirza, I absolutely love it. I mean, you know me on Safari, I'm Mr. Mouse Look, and seeing these out, you cannot do that kind of presentation in the real world. It's fantastic.
It's stunning. I saw that. And funny enough, I said that I'd been to an earlier show, an earlier conference. I think I dipped in when he was doing his first presentation on the railways in Liverpool, and it was great to see how that had expanded in the years since then.
What about you, Tim? Did you get to see this one?
I did not. However, this begs the question, looking at the photos, is it the audience visiting a train yard and just seeing a glimpse through a window, or the train yard visiting the audience?
Well,
It's blown my mind there.
It's the latter. It's clearly the latter. He brought all of his objects on stage.
Yeah, we got our feet run over in the front row.
That's right. Yep.
This one we look at now wasn't even on the stage. There was a railway track between the stage and the front row of the audience. So, so there's me and there's Thirza, and we got thoroughly, wind blown by this.
We were right in it.
Do a toe check, right?
Now, there's an interesting thing because the region where Graham does these things, as I said, it's on Kitely, and we have actually done some safaris there. But generally speaking, the region is not open to visitors. So this is really your only opportunity to see these things, apart from his videos that he makes. So that's one of the great things about the conference, is that regions that are generally kind of quite difficult to get to. I mean, you can obviously approach him and make a private arrangement to go and visit the sim, but it's not one of those places that's just available on Opensim World 24/7. This is a way that you become aware of somebody who's working away like crazy, but in a place that is not particularly accessible to the hypergridding public. So that's really why I love Opensim Conference.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that before on Safari. I remember there was a build where they they had a sort of plague in the drains, didn't they, of some sort of 19th century build or something like that. So,
yes, Stevens build. Yes, that's right, Dr. Snow.
And the thing about that is, and they can appreciate it, is that there are many people. They might have a grid that's on the hypergrid. They might have the hypergrid turned off, but they like to be alone to work on their project. That's why they're here. So it's at conference time and things like that they don't necessarily expect a safari to come, but they bring their project to this central sort of annual exhibit. And Graham's here every year, with something of similar ilk. And of course,
didn't he have a sailing ship last year?
Yes, I was just going to say he's got the steam ferry. Here was the big thing he rezzed at the end.
Fantastic. One of these years, though, he has to make it so that we can all go on board.
Oh yes,
and run about. I would love that.
I think you'll find. Do you know? There's sometimes find these mesh sort of houses and things that look absolutely gorgeous that you want to get and res them on your land, like a little sort of really, lovely little cottage or something. And you res it, you find there's nothing inside. It's just the mesh outside. If you set a phantom, you can walk through it, but there's nothing there. It just looks good. It's like building a set for a movie or something. You have the facade, but there's nothing behind it, but it serves its purpose. So, so that was the last slide from this. We have, of course, got the footage here. We were going to, if there's time, we were going to look at bits of the footage. Now, we've done the AI art, didn't we? And then you were Graham Mills, and I did, hang on. And then actually, so we've sort of finished with the picture stuff here. So
I was just curious to know the general overview of what these guys thought of the conference, what they'd like to see maybe in another year. Obviously, every year is slightly different, but is there anything that you would like to see more of or different? Ernest, any thoughts there at all?
For me, I was actually thinking about reflecting back on it today, which I did just before we came on. There's a huge resource there that can be gone and looked at again and again because we've got the YouTube video. Couple of things. It would be nice to have on the YouTube video somebody to maybe go in and put some timestamps on there so you could get to the different sessions that you were interested in, and also the schedule for the event. Now the event is finished, has gone. So you can't actually go and look back on the schedule to see what happened when, unless you actually go into the Google calendar, which is a shame. So I think some way of maybe a bit of a tie up at the end of it, such that the valuable resources were available.
Yeah, and I can actually speak to that, Ernest.
Yeah.
The scheduling tool in WordPress, I wanted to highlight the two remaining things: the workshop by Beth Ghostraven on Monday, and then the holiday party. But then I'll bring the entire schedule back.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's brilliant. And so maybe
And don't you split up the video later on in the year, James? Because it's a big job to do.
It's a big
It
job.
ends up being all bits, doesn't it?
Right,
Every
right.
session is a different video in the end.
that's correct.
A lot of you can create a timestamp in these movies. Like I've got the whole thing here, and it's I've got 11 hours to find things through, but 2 days. But I know I think Joyce and a few other people have actually posted, like my talk with the OMI people. I think Joyce or somebody posted it with a time code stamp. I eventually posted it as a standalone because I just cropped my own panels and published them separately. But you can actually. The only problem is like this clip is 11 hours long.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty long.
Even if I embed it somewhere with a time code of the start point and the end point, it still has to load in from YouTube the full bloody thing. So it's not to say, it's actually not say, a 50-minute clip will load pretty damn quickly. An 11 hours.
But isn't that just a temporary thing? Once they've split up the video, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, usually James does this, and Marcus, I think, probably does a lot of it. By spring, they'll probably all be up as self-contained cropped, sessions.
We're not the BBC, we're a group of volunteers working pretty hard on this.
I was about to say the same thing. It's how you do it, and I
think that sounds like a job for Ernest.
Oh,
I do. Don't volunteer other people, Ellen. What about you, Ellen? What did you get? What did you think you would like to see more of, maybe, or what didn't you see that you would like to see more of in the conference?
Well, it's always my time zone, so there were things I couldn't make it to, and a lot of the concerts. And it looked like a lot of like original performers and a lot of sort of party things that happened that I wasn't able to attend. But that's my time zone, of course. And I felt really, really lucky to be able to attend the sessions that I was most interested in. But I would really like to see more things about how people are using virtual worlds for training. I know that a lot of people have Sims in Kitely that they do different skill trainings. And so what does that look like? Not just soft skills, but they're like actually training people to do things in real world business and in a simulated office space. So things in real world, of course, more with education.
Yeah. What about you, Tim? What did you not see, or what did you see that particularly strikes you about this year's conference?
Well, I did notice that there was a really great diversity across, like, looking at the total schedule. It was kind of hard to narrow in maybe and then like earmark things that I wanted to attend. I don't know what the solution is there, but I kind of felt like if only I had a way to like pluck the ones I wanted right into my calendar so my phone could wake me up to watch, to watch and participate, kind of thing. That might be kind of interesting. I think
what a good idea.
Is
that something doable? Is that like a technical thing that you could come up with?
Well, it
sounds like magic to me.
Well, I guess knowing that it's on WordPress is good too, because I have a friend over in Omi who is working on like a 3D virtual world scene editor for WordPress, and they have really deep knowledge. I might be able to run it by them too, but it's definitely technically possible. It may be a little bit of work. I know that everyone's really busy, so I don't want to increase their scope, but yeah, that's
Well,
something
don't worry
possible.
about that. We don't mind we don't mind giving them more jobs to do. So what does it involve then?
Well, I don't know. I'd be willing to have a conversation about that too, about detail. But there's different ways you can integrate calendaring, and there's a variety of different tools. But depending on where the people coming from are going to be finding it, like if for example there are several people interested, like on the Discord side, there's like the event system within Discord that you can feed program that you can programmatically feed events in, so you could link them up. And then people could set reminders on the Discord side in their local kind of time zone. And if if you start reaching it out to the, if people are using Google Calendar, a way to be able to kind of integrate with that. There's different options.
That's great. That's good to know. Well, hopefully we can do something about that. I feel like I just watched the whole conference on the screen just now.
Well, that's the idea.
I was fast forwarding it. I feel like it saw it all flash by my eye.
I've just come back selfishly to my own panel. We're not going to play it here. You can go online and watch it. It's on the channel here anyway as a self-contained one. But Humbletim, you just mentioned Omi because I know you are part of Omi over there, which is very different from what we do here with the hypergrid and stuff. I presume you saw I know you were on my Sunday panel, but I presume you saw the, what's happening there? Is that the end? Oh, it just keeps, it keeps repeating the title screen. Did you see this panel with Omi on it, where I had Evo here and Funk Soup?
Yeah, I caught the whole thing.
Yeah. So, do you think there's anything happening with Omi yourself that is a sign of things that might connect with what we do in Opensim? Obviously, interop with a specific platform like this is a chance in a million almost. But I mean, there are ways they can connect together, aren't they? Do you think there's anything in the?
Oh yeah, well I think that to me, like one way to think about interoperability is the significant absence of notable friction moving between systems. And because that's basically describing the absence of something, it's hard to actually spot it's like when it works best. You literally don't notice it because you're focusing on something and you stay focused on that and you just cross that divide without even thinking. Sometimes the sim crossings work that way. But with things like Blender, for example, I went to a really great Blender presentation by Mike, Lori, and I think Ada. And it was over in Kitely, and it's really amazing how the struggles between generating content, getting the materials right, making sure all the textures and reflection, there's so much common ground in that struggle right now. And there's so many different situations where you'll find Blender part of that equation. So even something like that offers an opportunity to come together and share that common ground. And attending like a Blender meetup like that over in Kitely can help solve problems that you're having, trying to get content in VR chat almost by osmosis, because you end up talking around the same tech problem areas. And so I think there's plenty of opportunity for native platforms like Opensim in the interoperability space, and it's just a matter of continually uncovering those opportunities and finding those interested in pursuing them.
I've often said, I mean, we've talked about it here in Opensim, is that Opensim itself, and especially the hypergrid, does actually, it is, in my opinion, a template for a lot of things that these so-called new metaverses are trying to do. We have the real-time environment with, people think of it as a bit primitive. They think of Second Life as a bit primitive, but nevertheless, all these things have been done here over the last 20 years that, these newcomers think, it's the bee's knees. Gosh, we're having the first ever concert in the virtual world. Like hell you are, It's,
That's part of the beauty of coming together like this, because you
Yeah.
measure yourself against the other people that you maybe didn't even know exists, and you suddenly realize that you hear that, oh, I made the biggest art mill. Oh man, I guess we're out of time.
That, I believe, is the 15-minute warning, and I keep waiting for the band to come in. Where are the band?
No band.
It's the Pink Floyd, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What a great conversation, though.
Talk
Lovely
about-
guests we had today.
Talk about sampling. Is that our 15 minutes, or are we even closer than that?
Our 90 minutes.
Oh, the whole 90 minutes. Oh,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we better start wrapping. Yeah, I know there was some stuff we were thinking of including here, because I got it all, as so kindly noted, I'm spinning through at the speed of light, but I don't think we really need to do that if we're that close to the end. So, yeah, let's go. No, that's a bit egotistical. Let's go back to one that's, well, that would do. Right. Okay. Well, this has been great. Where does the time go? That's what I say every week, isn't it? I think we better round up. I'd like we'll do 2 roundups. Just go round each of you individually, and just, if it isn't something you covered already, maybe give a quick thoughts on your absolute highlights from the conference. And actually, I'd like to start with James, because operating the camera and everything else, he's probably been the most quiet voice so far. So, James, you obviously had to see everything, I imagine, or virtually everything. Any particular highlights for you? I know it's hard when you know half the people and you don't want to offend anybody, but you know.
Yeah, no worries about offending people. I am just constantly amazed by the variety of interests that are brought into a virtual world like Open Simulator, and people are exploring so many different avenues, and from the technical to the artistic, and the conference as a whole is just always extremely thrilling to watch what's happening, and so. Again, I love the Graham Mills. I love the props being brought in. I like Nara's bringing in props, and that, I guess would that be the who's the comedian that smashes watermelons?
Yeah.
But I
Gallagher?
love Gallagher. Right? Was that the Gallagher approach? But I always enjoy the content of the conference. It's great.
I'm cheating a bit in the background here. I'm actually showing a post-conference Zoom call. I don't know whether this is the actual one that looked at AI art.
That's Sidearm's presentation.
Yeah, that's. Oh God, it's still playing. I paused you. Why are you going on? But yeah. Oh, mine did. It does look rather heavy on the old. Yeah, there we are. I'm paused. So yeah, there's James. There's wonderful Leah, and that's Sidearm, isn't it? So he,
Yes,
I guess, was
yep.
hosting it.
James Neville. Yep.
Yeah. Good grief, no choice. That's just unusual. Anyway, so that's workshop. Oh, hang on. This is the AI. There's Joyce. This one's a different one. This one's the AI one, I think. So again, it's post-conference workshop with real people instead of avatars. But it's online, isn't it, James? So I guess I can get away with showing it. Joyce,
Sure.
there again. There you are. Sun Tzu there, David Fleischer, if that's the right pronunciation. Art Blue. That's Art Blue, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy Bill, of course, Valerie Hill. As an avatar, interesting. And Beth Ghostraven. So, putting a few faces to some of our regulars there, actually. Beth comes on Safari. So does Valerie now and again. Art Blue now and again. Sun Tzu now and again. And who's that? Cat's Eye. I don't know about that. This bloke James Atlloud's often on Safari. And so he's a little there. Yeah, anyway. Good stuff there. I haven't got time to show all that. So moving on. Let's start with Ellen. I mean, obviously the Anthang thing made a great impact on you, but any other highlights you'd like to mention briefly?
Oh, well, being part of it all, feeling included, and having people come see what we do, being able to talk to them about what they do, just made me feel more connected. OpenSim.
Yeah. And how do you find? I mean, obviously, the majority of us here are. Well, some of us in the UK, so it's Sunday evening. Others it's earlier on Sunday. But you, of course, as I said at the beginning, it's now Monday morning for you. How does do you feel? I mean, presumably there's a Japanese sims and things where people are in Japan or online at the same time as you. But do you find it's restricting? I mean, especially as you have a sort of Anglo-American background, as it were. Do you find that the times are restrictive for you? That when you can't get on when the things you want are on, or things like that.
Absolutely horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And to get up at 4 a.m. to do something is just unthinkable, but it was worth it to do it, to be a part of this. But OpenSim seems, yeah, most things happen from that like 12
Yeah,
noon SLT thing. And
yeah,
it's always 3 o'clock in the morning for me or something. So I think I miss so much of what happens in world. But
Well,
I live in
we sure do
Japan, so
appreciate you getting up for us. That means a lot.
oh, it was really
yes,
fun.
absolutely.
And I get to live
Yeah,
in Japan, so it's not so bad. I mean, I don't have as many in-world experiences, but I have a lot of good, real world experiences. So
yeah, of course, yeah. So yeah, it's not everything is about the virtual world. So yeah, I mean, I certainly found not less now, but because I tend to tire, and by 7 or 8 in the evening UK time, I'm sort of vanishing. But I remember from early times with Second Life and things, I'd make a note of all the events, I wanted to be at, and you're right, America did seem to dominate at least the English language. Of course, I never knew about Australia because that was way out of the time zone anyway. But yeah, I think in OpenSim though it's a lot more international. There's something because of the spread of grids geographic. German grids, French grids,
many
Italian
German
grids.
goods now.
There's probably something happening on one of those European grids, for example, in
Mm,
European time. And I was
not
sort of,
really. I
no,
miss most everything.
yeah,
Most things
oh,
are at that time frame. I mean, you can always find a few people in LBSA Plaza or maybe some people at like Oni's grid, but
yeah,
most places are just empty when it's my time to be in world.
yeah. Well, it happens. My sympathies, I feel for you.
It's okay.
Okay, Ernest. Other than what we've covered already, any striking things to close on that impressed you about the conference?
Yeah, and I echo Alan's point. I think actually having some people come to visit us on the sort of mini HG Safari was great, and met some really interesting people. Somebody that's working on using AI again, creating lifelike people, avatars with faces that are based off the photographs, which I thought was fascinating. So maybe collaborate with them on that. So yeah, meeting people with interesting ideas and sharing contacts, which hopefully will come in be useful in the future for collaboration. So yeah, that was the other thing.
Yeah,
All about
well,
meeting people. Yeah.
yeah. Well, exactly. Sort of, and I'm glad a lot of people turned up to the Pink Floyd build as well. It's very uh, acute. Anyway, Humble Tim, any real highlights that you can think of that we didn't get through today? We didn't discuss with you.
Yeah, I can think of one. It's kind of specific maybe, but I don't gravitate towards a lot of speaking experiences. Just as a first-time panelist, I just want to say thanks to you, and also Avatar Joy, and also Marcus for helping get the avatar together during the actual panel. Um, Even with all those technical difficulties, my entire memory of it is positive. Like, because I ended
Yeah,
up using my phone through Discord because my computer was messed up, and but it was a great experience, and I don't know why I was had any hesitation at all. So I'd encourage others if you're interested. It's a fun time.
yeah. and you've come back here today. So there we go, proof of the pudding, as it were. A lot of people feel this way. They're apprehensive and they think, oh God, that's going to be a long time. And then they realize when they're on it flies. And, sort of I and Thirza as well both take pains to make people feel comfortable. It's part of the thing, it's great to put a voice to the avatar face, basically, as well, which, often happens. People are very quiet in world as their avatars, and sort of it's quite fascinating when you actually do hear them speak. And particularly you, with your interest with things like Omi way beyond the safari and things. So if I got left, I think I've got somebody called Thirza. Come on, you've got to have you've got to have a quick thing that you really
I'd like to just thank the tech staff. That's my best memory, because there's a huge amount of work goes on behind the scenes. Right. Thanks also to Ellen, obviously, and Ernest too, to Nix, to Karima, and to Tosha for all their hard work, and of course everybody on the OSCC grid who does welcoming, does sorts out the website, sorts out all the technical side of it. And so much planning goes into it, and they all did a fantastic job. And looking forward to next year.
Great. Well, the thing I remember most about it was the opportunity to have a nap at the end. So there. Okay. 2 days and a much needed nap at the end. Indeed. Okay. Well, we better call it quits before we start rambling, and we'll get into trouble later. So I'd like to thank from the tech side and Conversation 2, James Atlloud.
Yep, sure thing,
my regular co-host, Thirza Ember.
You bet.
And our guest, Ellen Tiratzo. Oh, yeah. Bye-bye. Right. Ernest Moncrieff.
It's a pleasure. It's been great being here.
And Humbletim Metaworld.
Glad to be here. Have a happy holiday, everyone.
Okay, absolutely lovely. So, as we say here, we will be back this time next week, which will be the X day of the X Fest. And I guess none of us here, Thirza and I don't really celebrate it or anything, but we plan to be here with something. We don't know what yet, which is probably the fun thing, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We don't know what. So if you're around next week and you aren't sort of rolling on the floor with a full stomach of turkey or whatever it is you eat, I don't know. If you can make it, hop in more or less at the same time, same place. And with that, I'm going to sign off the way I normally do, and that is wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, or indeed a good evening, or even more indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And that's highly appropriate for Ellen, isn't it? So see you next week.
All right, thank you.